Please don't. Oh God, the sharks will eat me. Vanessa, why are you doing this? My own screams echoed in my ears as my wife's hands pressed firmly against my back, shoving me off our diving platform toward the dark water below. I caught a glimpse of her face, not panicked, not accidental, but cold and determined, as she deliberately pushed her husband of 10 years into shark-infested waters. The impact with the water knocked my regulator from my mouth. Salt water rushed in as I desperately fumbled to replace it, my lungs burning. Through the crystal-clear Caribbean water, I could already see them, 3 tiger sharks circling 40 feet below, their distinctive striped patterns unmistakable to someone who'd studied them for decades. They sensed the disturbance, their powerful bodies already turning toward me with mechanical precision. I survived that day. God knows how, but I did. 4 hours later, still trembling with shock and betrayal, I stood hidden in the shadows of our yacht's stairwell, salt water dripping from my hair and wetsuit, my waterproof phone clutched in white-knuckled fingers, recording app silently running as my wife's voice drifted down from the upper deck where she entertained her friends. Did you see his face when I pushed him? Hello, sharks, dinner is served. Vanessa's laughter cut through the evening air, the sound so callous it made my stomach clench. I told him he's nothing but a perilous load. Why not just plunge and dissolve already? He's been dragging me down for years. Champagne glasses clinked as her audience, people I'd called friends, roared with appreciation. The yacht rocked gently, the ocean that had nearly become my grave now cradling the vessel where my murder was being celebrated. I took out that $2 million life insurance policy for a reason, she continued, her voice slurring slightly. Should have seen him screaming and lashing like a dying seal. The sharks were circling too. Almost got the job done. My heart hammered against my ribs so violently I feared they might hear it. The wife who had vowed to love me forever had tried to murder me today, and now she was entertaining guests with the details. Next time I'll make sure he doesn't swim back. Worthless husband. Can't even die properly. I already told everyone it was an accident. Who's going to believe that pathetic loser anyway? He's so stupid he probably thinks I still love him. Marissa, her best friend since college, raised her glass in the moonlight. To getting rid of dead-weight husbands. Should have used chum to make sure, added Bradley, our company's attorney, his voice thick with cruel amusement. As they laughed, I slid deeper into the shadows, my entire world collapsing around me. 10 years of marriage, a multi-million-dollar diving business built together, a life I thought was perfect. All of it a carefully constructed lie leading to this moment. My wife trying to feed me to sharks for insurance money. The truth hit me like a physical blow. I was married to a monster, and she wasn't finished hunting yet. The first time I saw Vanessa Harper, she was standing on the deck of a research vessel off the coast of Belize, the golden sunset illuminating her profile as she stared out at the water. I was 32, a marine biologist with a specialty in shark behavior, 6 years into my research on migration patterns of tiger sharks in the Caribbean. She was 28, a recent MBA with a minor in environmental science, interning with an eco-tourism company that had partnered with our research team. While the other interns and business types kept their distance from the shark guy, Vanessa sought me out, asking intelligent questions about shark behavior, conservation challenges, and research methods. She moved through the world with effortless confidence, designer sunglasses perched on sun-kissed skin, expensive camera around her neck, perfectly casual in a way that must have taken enormous effort. "These creatures are magnificent," she said one evening, leaning against the railing beside me as we watched a group of reef sharks circle our chum line. "Everyone else is terrified, but you see something different, don't you?" I did. Where others saw monsters, I saw evolutionary perfection. Animals that had survived virtually unchanged for millions of years. Not mindless killers, but complex predators with behaviors as nuanced as any land animal. "You understand these creatures better than anyone I've ever met," she continued, her voice dropping to an intimate register that made my scientist's heart race. Have you ever thought about sharing that perspective with others? Not just researchers, but people who could really appreciate it and pay well for the experience. I hadn't. My life had been research, grants, and academic papers, safe, predictable, and largely solitary. But Vanessa painted a vision that seemed both wildly ambitious and perfectly logical. A premium diving business focused on shark encounters, combining my expertise with her business acumen. Blue Horizon Diving, she'd said, tracing the words in the air like she could already see the logo illuminated on a luxury yacht. Educational, exclusive, and eco-friendly. We'd be partners, equal partners. Her vision was intoxicating. Or perhaps it was just her. 6 months later, we were business partners, securing our first investment to purchase a modest dive boat. A year after that, she proposed to me during a night dive, a waterproof ring box illuminated by her dive light. Life's too short to wade in the shallows, she'd said through her regulator, bubbles spiraling around her perfect face. Let's dive deep together. The early years were everything I'd never known I wanted. We built Blue Horizon from a single borrowed boat to a fleet of 3 luxury vessels. My conservation credentials and research bias Geek Ground attracted serious divers and researchers. Vanessa's marketing genius brought in wealthy clients willing to pay premium prices for exclusive shark experiences. We were featured in National Geographic, Discovery Channel specials, and luxury travel magazines. We're perfect together, Vanessa would say, wrapping her arms around me as we counted our growing profits. Your ocean knowledge and my business sense. We're unstoppable. I believed her. We lived in a waterfront house in the Florida Keys, traveled the world scouting new dive locations, and donated regularly to marine conservation efforts. When Vanessa suggested buying $1 million yacht for private charters, I hesitated at the cost, but trusted her vision. The Mako, named after the shark, became our flagship vessel and home during extended expeditions. This is just the beginning, she'd whispered the night we christened the boat, champagne glass glinting in the moonlight. We're going to build an empire together. The first subtle shift came in our 5th year of marriage. Blue Horizon had become wildly successful, but success changed Vanessa in ways I initially dismissed as stress. She became obsessed with metrics, revenue targets, and expansion plans. Our dinner conversations shifted from marine biology to market penetration and profit margins. No one pays premium prices to hear lectures about overfishing, she'd snap when I spent too long educating clients about conservation. They want excitement, James. They want to feel danger without actually being in danger. But I was the one in the water with the sharks and clients. I understood the delicate balance between thrilling experiences and responsible practices. When Vanessa pushed for more aggressive shark encounters, chum in the water, closer proximity, promotional photos that made sharks look menacing rather than majestic, I pushed back. We built this business on respect for these animals, I'd argued, on education and conservation. We built this business to make money, she'd counter, her voice taking on a hard edge I'd never heard before. The ocean isn't going to pay our mortgage. Her words stung because they revealed a fundamental difference in our vision, one I should have recognized sooner. To me, Blue Horizon was about sharing my passion for the ocean. To Vanessa, it had always been about profit, still comma. I never suspected real danger until our 8th anniversary, when I discovered Vanessa had taken out a substantial life insurance policy on me without discussion. It's just smart business planning, she'd explained when I questioned her. We operate in a high-risk industry. If something happened to either of us, the other would need financial protection. Her logic seemed sound. After all, I spent my days swimming with apex predators. We signed the papers, I with a casual scrawl, she with a flourish that should have warned me of the permanence of what we'd just done. 2 weeks later, my dive computer malfunctioned at 100 feet, showing incorrect decompression information that could have caused a fatal case of the bends if I hadn't recognized the error. Equipment failures happen in diving, but when I brought it to our maintenance chief, Marcus, his expression turned grave. This wasn't a malfunction, boss. Someone tampered with it. See these settings? They've been manually changed. That's impossible, I'd said. No one touches my gear but me. Marcus had looked uncomfortable, his weathered face creasing with concern. Mrs. Brennan was checking equipment yesterday, said she wanted to make sure everything was perfect for your upcoming charter. I'd dismissed his concern, inventing excuses for Vanessa's behavior. Maybe she'd been trying to help. Maybe she'd accidentally changed settings without realizing it. Maybe Marcus was mistaken. The alternative was unthinkable. The incidents multiplied like tropical storm clouds gathering on the horizon. My air tank mysteriously emptied before a deep dive. I only noticed because I always performed a final pressure check. The anchor line on our smallest boat severed during a storm while I was aboard, setting the vessel adrift dangerously close to a reef. A near miss with a speedboat that veered directly toward me during a surface interval between dives. "You need to be more careful," Vanessa would say after each incident, her tone concerned, but her eyes evaluating me like a business risk. The ocean is unforgiving. Something in her voice made me increasingly uneasy, but I pushed the feelings aside. We were growing apart, certainly. Vanessa spending more time in our Miami office, me preferring to be on the water, but that was natural after 10 years, wasn't it? Then came the changes to our business model. Vanessa began pushing Blue Horizon toward more extreme experiences, marketing adrenaline dives and shark challenges that made me deeply uncomfortable. These weren't just ethically questionable, they were dangerous. "This isn't what we're about," I argued during a particularly heated meeting. "We're not some circus act. These are wild animals deserving of respect." "The competition is eating our lunch," she countered, perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on the conference table. "Extreme Encounters is booking 6 months out while we have empty boats. Thrill sells, James. Conservation doesn't." Our staff began taking sides. Most of the dive masters and marine scientists aligned with me, the business team and marketing department with Vanessa. The division became so pronounced that we rarely held full company meetings anymore. Marcus Comma, our head dive master and my closest friend in the company, pulled me aside after Vanessa announced a new extreme shark encounter package without consulting me. "No, something's wrong, boss," he said quietly, his voice barely audible over the boat engines. "The equipment incidents, these new packages, the way she talks about you when you're not around." "What do you mean? How does she talk about me?" He'd hesitated, salt and pepper beard twitching as he frowned. "Like you're an obstacle, an inconvenience. I overheard her on the phone last week saying if you weren't so stubborn about shark rights, the company would be making twice the profit." "That's just business frustration," I'd said, but the unease in my stomach grew. Maybe, but I've been diving 40 years, and I've learned to sense danger before I see it. Just watch your back and your equipment. That night, I checked our company financial records for the first time in months. What I found disturbed me deeply. Vanessa had been moving money between accounts, taking out additional loans using our boats as collateral, and most troublingly, increasing my life insurance from $2 million to $200 million through a complex web of policies and riders. $200 million. The number was so extreme it seemed absurd. No insurance company would pay that without extensive investigation. Unless my death appeared completely accidental. A tragic mishap in a high-risk profession. That night, lying beside my sleeping wife, I faced the possibility that had been circling my subconscious like a distant shark. What if these weren't accidents? What if Vanessa wanted me dead? The thought was so painful I physically recoiled from it. We'd built a life together. A business. A reputation. Surely I was being paranoid. But the next morning, I installed recording software on my phone and backed up our financial records to a private cloud account. Just in case. 3 weeks later, Vanessa suggested a special dive for our anniversary, just the two of us at Tiger Beach, a site off Grand Bahama, known for its tiger and lemon shark populations. "Like our early days," she said, a warmth in her eyes I hadn't seen in years. "Before all the business complications. Just us until the ocean. I agreed, touched by what seemed like an effort to reconnect. We'd bring the Mako, anchor at Tiger Beach for our private dive, then host a small celebration with friends who would join us afterward. "I'll take care of all the arrangements," Vanessa insisted. "You just show up with your dive gear." The rational part of my brain noted the red flags. Her sudden interest in diving after months of avoiding it. Her insistence on handling all preparations. The location, remote, deep water, known for large shark populations. But the part of me that still loved her, that desperately wanted to believe in us, silenced those warnings. The day of our anniversary dive dawned perfect. Clear skies, calm seas, ideal conditions. As we prepared our gear on the Mako's diving platform, Vanessa seemed unusually attentive, checking my equipment with a thoroughness she hadn't shown in years. "Just making sure everything's perfect," she said, catching my questioning look. "It's our special day." We entered the water smoothly and descended to 50 feet, where several lemon sharks already patrolled. The visibility was exceptional, at least 80 feet of crystal blue water in all directions. Vanessa stayed close, seemingly engaged as I pointed out different sharks, using hand signals to communicate. 20 minutes into the dive, I spotted a massive tiger shark approaching from the blue, 12 feet of magnificent predator, moving with the power and grace that still awed me after decades of shark encounters. I signaled to Vanessa to maintain position as the shark circled us curiously. S when I felt her hands on my shoulders. A friendly touch, I thought, until those hands suddenly transformed into a violent shove, propelling me directly into the tiger shark's path. My regulator popped out of my mouth from the force. For one terrifying moment, I tumbled through open water, disoriented, air bubbles obscuring my vision, the massive shark startlingly close. Pure training and instinct took over. I recovered my regulator, established neutral buoyancy, and maintained eye contact with the shark, which veered away, startled by the sudden commotion. When I turned to Vanessa, expecting to see concern or confusion, what I saw instead froze my blood more effectively than the cold water ever could. Behind her mask, her eyes showed neither panic nor worry. They showed disappointment. She gestured upward, signaling to end the dive. I nodded, too shocked to do anything else. We ascended slowly, maintaining our safety stops despite my racing heart and spinning mind. On the surface, she was all concern. "James, what happened? You just fell forward. I tried to grab you, but couldn't reach you in time." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't seen her expression underwater, I might have believed her. "I'm fine," I managed. "Just lost my balance, I guess." "You scared me to death," she said, helping me onto the diving platform. "Let's get you dried off." As I climbed aboard, still reeling from what had happened, or what I thought had happened, I noticed Vanessa texting rapidly. Moments later, she announced that friends were joining us to continue the anniversary celebration. "I hope you don't mind," she said, not meeting my eyes. "I thought it would be fun to have a little party." I agreed numbly, watching her with new eyes. Had my wife just tried to kill me? The question seemed absurd, melodramatic. Yet I couldn't shake the memory of her hands on my shoulders, the deliberate force of her push, and most damning, that look of disappointment when I emerged unharmed. I needed evidence, not paranoia, and I needed to survive the night. 3 hours after the dive incident, the Mako was filled with Vanessa's friends, mostly business associates and clients I'd always found superficial but tolerated for her sake. I'd begged off joining this, claiming exhaustion and mild shock from our mishap underwater. "Get some rest, babe," Vanessa had said, kissing my cheek with practiced affection. "We'll keep it down." In our cabin, I paced relentlessly, replaying the moment underwater, the deliberate shove, the calculating look as the tiger shark approached, the lack of any attempt to help me. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't an accident. My wife had tried to kill me, but why? Our business was thriving. Despite our differences, we'd built something valuable together. What would drive Vanessa to attempt murder? I needed evidence, not just suspicions. Taking my waterproof phone, the one I used to document marine life during dives, I decided to record ambient sounds in our cabin, hoping to capture something if Vanessa returned to check on me. As I set up the phone, a notification appeared from our insurance broker. The life insurance policy had been updated 3 weeks earlier. The coverage had increased from $2 million to $200 million. $200 million. An amount that would tempt even the most moral person, which Vanessa clearly was not. Dot. My hands trembled as I pocketed the phone and silently made my way toward the upper deck. The party was in full swing, music pulsing, laughter carrying across the water. I stayed in the shadows of the stairwell, recording app-activated Dot. For 20 minutes, the conversation was mundane. Business gossip, vacation plans, complaints about competitors. Then Bradley, our attorney, asked about me. Where's James hiding? Too tired to celebrate his own anniversary? Vanessa's laugh had a cruel edge I'd never heard before. Oh, he had a little accident during our dive. Nothing serious, unfortunately. The word unfortunately hung in the air for a beat before she continued. Did you see his face when I pushed him? Hello, sharks. Dinner is served. The laughter that followed, it froze my blood. This wasn't a misinterpreted accident. This was premeditated attempted murder, confessed to a deck full of witnesses who found it amusing. I told him he's nothing but a perilous load. Why not just plunge and dissolve already? He's been dragging me down for years. Each word was a dagger. Every laugh from her friends another betrayal. I stood paralyzed as Vanessa, emboldened by alcohol and an audience, detailed her murderous intentions. I took out that $2 million life insurance policy for a reason. Should have seen him screaming and splashing like a dying seal. The sharks were circling too. Almost got the job done. She didn't even get the amount right, I thought hysterically. It was $200 million now, not $2 million. She'd been so confident in her plan's success that she'd raised the stakes exponentially. Next time I'll make sure he doesn't swim back. Worthless husband. Can't even die properly. Next time. She was already planning another attempt. I already told everyone it was an accident. Who's going to believe that pathetic loser anyway? He's so stupid he probably thinks I still love him. The woman I'd built a life with, the partner I'd trusted with everything, was discussing my murder as casually as a business acquisition. Worse, her friends were encouraging her to getting rid of dead weight husbands. Marissa toasted. Should have used chum to make sure, added Bradley. I quote to heard enough. Shaking uncontrollably, I retreated to our cabin, mind racing. The recording was damning, but it wouldn't be enough if something happened to me tonight. Vanessa's confession, while intoxicated, could be explained away by skilled attorneys as distasteful joking. I needed to get off this boat alive, preserve the evidence, and ensure justice. Moving quickly, I transferred the audio file to cloud storage and sent a copy to Marcus with a brief explanation and instructions to contact authorities if he didn't hear from me by morning. Then I packed essentials in a waterproof bag: phone, wallet, passport, emergency. Cash. The Mako was anchored a mile offshore. A strong swimmer could make it to the beach, especially with a small flotation device. I'd led night dives in these waters countless times. I knew the currents, the shoreline, the risks. Just as I finished preparations, the cabin door swung open. Vanessa stood swaying slightly, champagne flute still in hand. There you are, darling, she slurred, but her eyes were sharper than her voice suggested. Feeling better? You should join us. Actually, I was about to come find you, I lied, forcing a smile. Anniversary surprise. Her expression shifted to suspicion. What kind of surprise? I thought we could do a night dive. Just us. The bioluminescence is amazing tonight. For a moment, naked calculation crossed her face. A second attempt, gift-wrapped by the intended victim. Too perfect to resist. Let me change, she said, moving toward her closet. "Give me 10 minutes." The moment she entered the bathroom, I slipped out, made my way to the lowest deck, and silently lowered myself into the dark water. The night was clear, the shore lights visible in the distance. I began swimming, one arm clutching my waterproof bag, expecting at any moment to hear alarm bells or engines starting. But the only sounds were gentle waves and distant music from the yacht, growing fainter as I put distance between myself and the woman who'd planned to make me shark food. 2 hours later, exhausted but alive, I reached shore near a small fishing village. By dawn, I was in Nassau, checking into a hotel under a false name. By noon, I'd contacted the FBI about attempted murder on international waters and insurance fraud. Within 48 hours, federal agents boarded the Mako as it returned to Miami. Vanessa's expression, captured by news helicopters as she was led away in handcuffs, was the final confirmation I needed. Not shock or confusion, bullshit, but cold fury at being outsmarted by the husband she'd dismissed as a pathetic loser. The sharks hadn't gotten me. But Vanessa was about to learn what it felt like to be circled by predators of a different kind. The morning after Vanessa's arrest, I stood in our Miami office, surrounded by FBI agents as they seized computers, files, and records. Employees gathered in shocked clusters, whispering behind their hands. The headline scrolled across every television and smartphone. "Shark wife arrested. Woman accused of trying to feed husband to sharks for $200 million." Our receptionist, Teresa, approached me with tears streaming down her face. "Is it true? Mrs. Brennan tried to kill you?" Before I could answer, an agent emerged from Vanessa's office carrying a laptop. "Mr. Brennan, you need to see this." On the screen was a document titled Contingency Plan. It outlined in meticulous detail the steps Vanessa planned to take after my accidental death. Transfer assets, restructure the company, sell off the conservation division, launch a new extreme adventure brand called Predator Experiences. The document was dated 6 months before our anniversary dive. This wasn't a crime of passion or opportunity. This was calculated, long-term planning. "There's more," the agent said, scrolling down. "She's been documenting the previous attempts. The contaminated air tank, the cut anchor line, the tampered dive computer, all listed with dates, methods, and reasons for failure. My wife had been trying to kill me for over a year with escalating determination." "Why?" I whispered, more to myself than the agent. "We had everything." "Not according to these financial records," another agent interjected, joining us with a stack of papers. "Your wife has been hemorrhaging money, offshore accounts, gambling debts, a condo in South Beach under another name." "What name?" "Bradley Palmer, our company attorney." My stomach lurched as the final piece clicked in to place. I excused myself and staggered to the bathroom, barely making it to the toilet before violently emptying my stomach. It wasn't just murder for insurance money. It was a complete betrayal, professional, financial, and personal. Vanessa and Bradley had been planning to rebuild Blue Horizon without me, funded by my death. When I emerged, ashen-faced and trembling, Marcus was waiting. "The press is outside. Dozens of them. What do you want to do?" What could I do? In the span of 48 hours, I discovered my wife had tried to murder me. My business partner had betrayed me, and my company, the dream we'd built from nothing, was implicated in a scandal that would dominate headlines for months. "I need a lawyer," I said finally. "Not a corporate attorney, someone who specializes in criminal cases." "I know someone," Marcus replied. "Jacob Mercer, former prosecutor, now in private practice. Handled my brother's case when his partner tried to screw him out of their business. Call him." "And Marcus?" I gripped his shoulder. "Thank you for believing me, for helping me." "Boss, I've known you 10 years. You respect the ocean more than anyone I've ever met. The idea that you'd just fall into a shark's path, that was never going to fly with me." The weeks that followed were a nightmare of FBI interviews, legal meetings, and media speculation. Shark Wife dominated every news cycle. Tabloids published unflattering mugshots of Vanessa alongside photos of me looking shell-shocked. Overnight, I became infamous. The man whose wife had tried to feed him to sharks. Blue Horizon's bookings collapsed. Half our staff quit, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. The other half were fiercely loyal but struggling with the tarnished reputation and cancelled charters. Our business loans were called in as banks distanced themselves from the controversy. Vanessa, meanwhile, meows, mounted an aggressive defense. Released on $5 million bail, she hired a team of high-profile attorneys who immediately went on the offensive. "This is a tragic misunderstanding," her lead lawyer announced on the courthouse steps. "Mrs. Brennan was trying to save her husband during a diving incident, not harm him." The so-called confession was dark humor after a frightening experience, gallows humor common among those who work in dangerous professions. The character assassination began immediately. Vanessa's team painted me as an unstable, jealous husband, resentful of her business success. They questioned my mental health, my dive safety record, my financial management. They pointed to the life insurance as standard practice for business partners and questioned why I'd swum to shore in the middle of the night if I truly feared for my safety. Why not call for help? Why not alert the other guests? His behavior suggests guilt, not victimhood, her lawyer argued on cable news. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd imagined possible. This woman had shared my bed, my dreams, my life for a decade. Now she was not just denying her attempt to kill me, but actively trying to destroy what remained of my reputation. My attorney, Jacob Mercer, was a stark contrast to Vanessa's legal team. No press conferences, no television appearances, just ruthless efficiency and strategic planning. "The recording is compelling," he said after reviewing the evidence. "But without corroboration, they'll claim it was drunken hyperbole. We need more." "Like what?" "Financial records, communication with insurance companies, evidence of prior attempts. And we need the guests from that party to corroborate what they heard." I remembered Vanessa's meticulous documentation of her previous attempts. The FBI found records. She kept a log. Jacob's eyes narrowed. "Perfect. Now we go on offense." For the next month, we became investigators rather than passive victims. I worked with marine equipment experts to analyze my malfunctioning GER. Jacob subpoenaed Vanessa's phone and email records. We interviewed former employees who'd left under mysterious circumstances. The pattern that emerged was more calculated than I'd imagined. Vanessa and Bradley had been planning my death for at least 18 months. The insurance policy increases. The documented concerns about my mental health she'd shared with friends and business associates, setting up a potential suicide narrative. The gradual isolation from my support network. Most damning were the text messages between Vanessa and Bradley. They detailed not just the murder plan, but the financial restructuring that would follow my accidental death. "Once Jay is gone, we'll have 8 weeks to move assets before insurance investigation concludes," she'd written 3 days before our anniversary dive. "Have papers ready." The evidence was overwhelming. When Jacob presented it to prosecutors, their approach shifted from cautious to aggressive. Additional charges were filed: conspiracy, fraud, attempted insurance fraud. Bradley Palmer was arrested as an accomplice. Vanessa, quote, "His carefully constructed facade began crumbling." 2 former diving instructors came forward with stories of her sabotaging equipment. Our accountant admitted she'd pressured him to falsify documents. Even Marissa, sensing which way the wind was blowing, offered to testify about conversations preceding the anniversary trip. As legal momentum built against her, Vanessa made one desperate move, offering a plea deal that would give her minimal prison time in exchange for signing over her share of Blue Horizon to me. "She thinks you care more about the business than justice," Jacob observed as we reviewed the offer. "She never did understand what really mattered to me," I replied, staring at the document that represented Vanessa's surrender. "Let's counter." Our terms were simple: full confess it, On maximum penalties under law and complete divestment from Blue Horizon, with all assets transferred to a marine conservation trust I would establish. Her response came via text, the only direct communication since her arrest. "You'll regret this. I built that business. Without me, it's nothing." The same day, Blue Horizon's website was hacked, client data leaked, fake cancellation notices sent to our remaining bookings. A coordinated attack that could only have been orchestrated by someone with intimate knowledge of our systems. Vanessa might be facing prison, but she was determined to ensure I'd have nothing left when she got out. What she failed to understand was that I never needed the business itself. What I needed, what the ocean needed, was someone to fight for it. And she'd just given me the perfect reason to rebuild everything from scratch. The trial of Vanessa Brennan versus the state of Florida, the federal charges having been consolidated with state attempts to streamline proceedings, became a media sensation unlike anything I could have imagined. Court TV carried daily coverage. Netflix announced a documentary before the verdict was even reached. True crime podcasts devoted entire seasons to the Shark Wife case. Our mansion in the Keys became a macabre tourist attraction, with boats slowing as they passed to take photos. Blue Horizon's dock was vandalized with shark graffiti and crude messages. Former clients sold interviews about their eerie experiences with us, claiming they'd always sensed something off about our relationship. I testified for 3 grueling days, enduring aggressive cross-examination from Vanessa's defense team. They attacked my character, my business acumen, my mental stability, anything to create reasonable doubt. But the evidence was irrefutable. The recording, the financial trail, the testimony from accomplices seeking leniency, the forensic analysis of dive equipment, and most damning, Vanessa's own words in texts, emails, and conversations with co-conspirators. Throws. "Look it all." She sat at the defense table, immaculate in designer suits that somehow made her look both professional and victimized. Not once did she meet my eyes. The prosecution's closing argument was devastatingly simple. This is a case about greed, about a woman who valued money over marriage, profit over people, and who viewed her husband as nothing more than an obstacle to be eliminated. The ocean didn't claim James Brennan that day, but it wasn't for lack of Vanessa Brennan's trying. After just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned their verdict. Guilty on all counts, including attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, and fraud. The judge, citing the cold-blooded and calculated nature of the crime, sentenced Vanessa to 30 years in federal prison, without possibility of parole for 20 years. Bradley Palmer received 15 years as an accomplice. As Vanessa was led away in handcuffs, she locked eyes with me one final time. The hatred there was palpable. But beneath it I glimpsed something else. Grudging respect. She'd underestimated me completely, and we both knew it. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by reporters shouting questions, I made my only public statement about the case. Today isn't about vengeance, it's about justice, not just for me, but for our oceans. Blue Horizon was founded on principles of conservation and education. Moving forward, that mission will be our only focus. What the reporters didn't know was that during the 18 months of legal proceedings, I'd been quietly rebuilding. Blue Horizon was indeed dead, the brand too tarnished, the structure too compromised. But from its ashes, Ocean Guardian Expeditions was born. D used my settlements from insurance companies, who'd immediately voided Vanessa's fraudulent policies, and civil judgments against Bradley Palmer's firm to purchase the Mako and 2 other boats, FR. On bankruptcy proceedings, Marcus and our core loyal staff became partners in the new venture, with profit sharing and equity stakes I'd never been able to convince Vanessa to implement. We relaunched with a focus Vanessa would have ridiculed: educational expeditions, research support, and conservation-focused diving. No more celebrity clients demanding illegal shark feedings. No more ecologically damaging practices for Instagram moments. Just authentic, responsible ocean experiences. Surprisingly, the model worked better than I could have imagined. Universities booked our boats for research expeditions. Conservation groups partnered with us for monitoring projects. Ecologically minded travelers sought us out specifically because of our ethics. The shark wife notoriety actually worked in our favor. People wanted to see the waters where the infamous murder attempt had occurred, and we transformed that morbid curiosity into conservation education. Within 2 years, Ocean Guardian was profitable. Not wildly so. We'd never reached the profit margins Vanessa had chased, but sustainably successful. We expanded thoughtfully, adding specialized research vessels and developing educational programs for schools. The irony wasn't lost on me. By trying to kill me, Vanessa had actually freed me to create the business I'd always envisioned. Then came the letter. 5 years into her sentence, Vanessa wrote requesting a meeting. I almost declined, but curiosity won out. Under prison supervision, we sat across from each other for the first time since the trial. She, quote, de-aged, her designer clothes replaced by prison denim, her once perfect manicure now bitten to the quick. But her eyes remained calculating, still assessing, still looking for angles and opportunities. I hear your little conservation company is doing well, she began without preamble. Well enough, I replied neutrally. I need your help. The words seemed physically painful for her to pronounce. My appeals have failed. My parents are dead. My assets are gone. What could you possibly think I'd help him?
You with?
She leaned forward, lowering her voice.
My new lawyer thinks there's grounds for sentence reduction, character witnesses, evidence of rehabilitation.
If you spoke on my behalf, I couldn't help it. I laughed. The sound echoed harshly in the prison visiting room. You tried to feed me to sharks, Vanessa. You conspired to collect $200 million from my death. You called me worthless while toasting with friends after your murder attempt failed. And now you want me to help reduce your sentence? I've changed, she insisted, though her eyes remained cold as the deep ocean. Prison gives you perspective. So does nearly being killed by your spouse. She dropped the pretense. Listen, James, I still have information about finances, about offshore accounts you never found, things that could benefit you. Blackmail now? That's your rehabilitation strategy. Not blackmail, a trade. Help me, I help you. I stood to leave. I don't need anything from you, Vanessa. I never did. Don't walk away from me, she hissed, her mask slipping entirely. I still have contacts. I can still hurt you, even from in here. I smiled then, genuinely. That's the difference between us. You still think it's about money, about power, about winning. It never was. It was about the ocean. It was about doing something meaningful. That's why you lost. I lost because you got lucky, she spat, hands clenched into white-knuckled fists. No, I corrected her. You lost because you thought I was as empty as you, as driven by greed and status. You never understood what actually mattered to me. As I turned to leave, she called after me, voice rising. Your precious Ocean Guardian won't last. These conservation trends fade. When people want luxury again, you'll come crawling back to my business model. I paused at the door. That's where you're wrong, Vanessa. It was never your business model. It was ours, and now it's mine. 3 weeks later, Ocean Guardian was featured in National Geographic's special issue on ocean conservation. Our work with hammerhead shark migration patterns had helped establish new protected marine zones in the Bahamas, including Tiger Beach, where Vanessa had tried to end my life. The magazine cover showed me swimming peacefully among a school of sharks, a fitting image for a man who'd survived not just their teeth, but the far more dangerous predator who'd shared his bed for 10 years. The final irony came 6 months later, when Vanessa's remaining assets, hidden in offshore accounts Jacob's investigators finally uncovered, were seized and awarded to me as additional damages. I donated the entire amount to establish the Blue Horizon Marine Conservation Trust, funding research into the very shark species my ex-wife had tried to use as murder weapons. Sharks, it turns out, are far more predictable and less vicious than some humans. They attack out of hunger or confusion, not malice or greed. That quote's a lesson I carry with me into the depths on every dive. respectful of their power, but no longer afraid of predators in any form. As Ocean Guardian flourished, something unexpected happened. The Shark Wife scandal transformed from tabloid sensation to serious conservation catalyst. Documentary filmmakers, journalists, and marine biologists began approaching me not to sensationalize the murder attempt, but to use it as an entry point for discussions about shark behavior, conservation ethics, and marine protection. "Your story makes people care about sharks in a different way," explained a producer from Discovery Channel. "It humanizes both you and the sharks, showing that humans can be predators too, often more dangerous than the animals we fear." I agreed to limited interviews, always steering the conversation toward the ocean rather than my failed marriage. The Reis story isn't about betrayal, I'd say. It's about respect for these magnificent creatures, for their ecosystem, for the ocean that sustains us all. 3 years after the trial, I published a book, not a revenge memoir, but a serious work on shark conservation that incorporated personal elements of my journey. Beyond the Bite, Rediscovering Sharks and Ourselves became an unexpected bestseller, further funding our conservation work. Life settled into a rhythm I'd never imagined during my years with Vanessa. Ocean Guardian expanded thoughtfully to 5 vessels, each specialized for different research and educational purposes. I split my time between leading expeditions and advocating for marine protected areas, testifying before Congress and international conservation bodies. Then came the news I'd never expected. Vanessa had been diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer while in prison. Her lawyers filed for compassionate release, supported by prison doctors who estimated she had 6 months to live. Jacob called to warn me. "The hearing is next week. They may reach out to you for a statement." "What are you advising?" "Legally? Stay out of it. You have nothing to gain by getting involved either way." "And personally?" He sighed. "That's up to you, James. Just remember that forgiveness and endorsing early release are 2 different things." I wrestled with the decision for days. The woman had tried to kill me, had betrayed me in every possible way, had shown no genuine remorse. Why should I care about her suffering? But something Marcus said during a night dive shifted my perspective. We were watching a tiger shark, similar to the one Vanessa had tried to use as her murder weapon, moving gracefully through the illuminated water. "You know what amazes me about these animals?" he mused. "They kill to survive, not for revenge. They don't hold grudges. They're perfectly adapted to their purpose." The observation stayed with me. Was I still serving my purpose? Or had I allowed Vanessa's betrayal to define me in ways I hadn't recognized? The day before the hearing, I submitted a written statement to the court, not supporting her release, but not opposing it either, simply acknowledging that justice had multiple dimensions and that I would respect the court's decision either way. To my surprise, the judge denied the release, citing the extraordinary calculation and cruelty of Vanessa's crime. She would remain in prison for her final months. 2 weeks later, I received another letter requesting a visit. This time I went without hesitation. Vanessa was a shadow of herself, gaunt, jaundiced, her once gleaming hair thin and dull. The cancer had worked quickly, prison doctors giving her weeks rather than months. "Thank you for coming," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think you would." "Neither did I admitted, sitting across from her. "I'm not going to apologize," she said after a moment. "We both know it would be meaningless now." "Then why ask me here?" She pushed a manila envelope across the table. "These are the access codes and locations for the last hidden accounts. There's about 8 million left. I was saving it for after. Use it for your fish, your ocean, whatever. It doesn't matter anymore." I studied her face, looking for the manipulation, the angle. "Why now?" "Because I'm dying, James. And because—" She hesitated, something like genuine emotion flickering across her face. "Because you were right. About what matters. I never understood it, but I see it now."
You expect me to believe you've had some deathbed conversion to conservation? She laughed, the sound turning into a painful cough. God, no. I still think your shark obsession is ridiculous. But you found purpose, meaning. I never did. It was always just more. More money, more status, more power. The honesty was unexpected. For the first time since I'd known her, Vanessa wasn't performing, wasn't calculating her effect. She was simply speaking truth as she saw it. Did you ever love me? I asked, the question escaping before I could stop it. I loved what we built together, she replied after a thoughtful pause. The success, the recognition. But you? I don't think I know how to love people, James. Only things, possessions, achievements. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. I don't forgive you, I told her, but I don't hate you either. Not anymore. She nodded weakly. Fair enough. As I stood to leave, she gestured to the envelope. There's something else in there. A letter for you. Don't read it until after. After what? After I'm gone. My final attempt at honesty. Probably too little, too late, but... She shrugged, wincing at the movement. Well, that's been the story of my life, hasn't it? 3 weeks later, Vanessa died in the prison medical facility. I opened the letter that night, sitting on the deck of the Mako, now repurposed as a research vessel monitoring shark populations throughout the Caribbean. The letter wasn't an apology. It was something far more valuable. A complete confession of every aspect of her plot, every accomplice, every hidden asset. Information that would have shortened her sentence substantially had she provided it to prosecutors. She had kept it as leverage until the very end, only releasing it when it could no longer benefit her. The final paragraph read, I still don't understand why anyone would devote their life to saving fish, but I've watched you rebuild everything I tried to destroy and turn it into something better than what we had together. That's a kind of power I never understood. Maybe if I had, things would have ended differently. Too late now. The sharks win after all. I folded the letter and slipped it back into the envelope. The millions she'd left would establish an endowment, ensuring Ocean Guardian's conservation work could continue indefinitely. Her final manipulation had become, ironically, her greatest contribution to the cause she'd despised. The ultimate irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to kill me for money, Vanessa had actually funded the conservation work she'd fought against throughout our marriage. Her greed had ultimately served the ocean she'd seen only as a source of profit. 2 months after her death, I led a special expedition to Tiger Beach, returning to the site of her murder attempt. As our research team tagged and measured the tiger sharks that patrolled these waters, I realized something profound. I was no longer defined by what had happened here. I was defined by what I'd built afterward. The National Marine Sanctuary designation we'd been fighting for was approved the following year. 200,000 acres of protected ocean, including Tiger Beach. The official name, the Blue Horizon Marine Sanctuary. A fitting legacy for a company born from passion, nearly destroyed by greed, and reborn through resilience. Vanessa had tried to feed me to sharks. Instead, she had ultimately helped me save them. They say the most dangerous animal in the ocean isn't the shark, it's the human. My experience proved that beyond any doubt, sharks don't kill out of greed or jealousy or resentment. They don't calculate insurance payouts or plan elaborate murder schemes. They simply exist in perfect harmony with their nature, neither good nor evil, just perfectly adapted to their environment. Vanessa was also perfectly adapted to her environment, the cutthroat world of business, where predatory instincts are rewarded and empathy viewed as weakness. In her mind, I'd become an obstacle to her ambition, a problem to be eliminated as efficiently as removing a competitor. What she never understood was that true strength doesn't come from eliminating obstacles, but from finding purpose greater than yourself. The ocean taught me that. Every coral polyp, every juvenile fish, every complex ecosystem shows that individual survivor matters less than collective flourishing. I don't hate Vanessa anymore. Like the sharks she tried to use as weapons, she was simply acting according to her nature. The tragedy isn't what she did, but what she missed. The genuine wonder of the underwater world we'd built our lives around, the purpose beyond profit, the beauty beyond balance sheets. If you're watching this and struggling to understand someone's betrayal, remember, predators exist in human form too. They may wear designer clothes instead of sharp teeth, attend dinner parties instead of hunting in deep water, but their nature remains the same. The difference is that human predators choose their nature. Sharks T.today, ocean. Guardian Expeditions takes thousands of people underwater each year, not to conquer or exploit, but to witness and protect. Every time I lead a dive and see the awe in someone's eyes as they encounter their first shark, I'm reminded that this was always my true purpose. Sometimes life pushes you toward sharks, but sometimes that's exactly where you needed to be all along. Thank you for watching this deeply personal story. If it resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We're working toward reaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything to us. Please like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever discovered someone close to you had hidden motives? How did you rebuild your life after betrayal? Remember that sometimes our greatest challenges lead to our most authentic paths. The predators in our lives, whether literal sharks or the human equivalent, don't have to define our story. They can instead become part of the journey that leads us to where we were always meant to be. Thank you again for your time and your support. Together, we can share stories that remind us of the resilience of the human spirit. Even in the face of unimaginable betrayal,